Halloween, All Hallows Eve, the time between fall and winter when, historically, it was believed that the souls of the dead come back for one night. The idea that one might see one of these souls, or ghosts, on this night is a terrifying thrill. We have studied the history of Halloween and have discovered some drastic changes in the mindset of newer generations regarding this holiday. The focus has evolved from the historical evening of fear and scary costumes to an unjustified excuse to wear less clothing and appear provocative.
To understand these changes, first you must understand the origins. The origins of Halloween date back thousands of years to the Celts, who inhabited Western Europe and were very superstitious people. They celebrated their new year on November 1st, and this time of year was when days started to be shorter and colder. The Celts believed that this time of year was associated with death, and on October 31st, their New Year's Eve, the border between the living and the dead was brought down for one night. This tradition was called Samhain and continued throughout the centuries to come with different civilizations that flourished in Western Europe. Naturally, this tradition followed Europeans as they founded the American colonies. Because of the difference in beliefs, the tradition of Halloween that was originated by the Celts began to morph into an American-specific holiday.
In the 19th century, many new immigrants came to America, and this is where the tradition of dressing up in a costume began. The costumes were originally made so a person could go out on Samhain and blend in with the dead. Eventually, the costumes were used to hide a person so they could go around town asking for money and food for neighbors. This is where the tradition of trick-or-treating originated. Now that we have laid down the groundwork for Halloween, we can examine Halloween and using costumes we have today.
From the time we were children, dressing up for Halloween has been a major part of our culture. In the 1990s, many children were dressing up in cotton Winnie the Pooh costumes or as ridiculously large pumpkins. In society today, the idea of dressing like that is outlandish, and for lack of a better word, stupid. Halloween costumes today are not cute or scary, but provocative.
Costumes now include fishnets, limited coverage of the human anatomy, and sexual intentions. As adults, it is more understandable to see some of our peers wearing such costumes because of the age and mindset. When the costumes begin to be as limited in younger generations, something is terribly wrong.
What troubles me the most is for young girls and the way that the Halloween costumes have been sexualized. And for example, I just went shopping with my younger daughter who just turned 10, and she wanted to be Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. The jump from a size 10, for example, for kids to a size 14 or 16, the Dorothy costume, it was at least 2 to 2.5 inches shorter. It had almost like a spot for cleavage where and it was off the shoulder and came with thigh-high stockings.
Oh my.
One of her other things is that she wanted to be a superhero, and she wanted to be Supergirl, specifically. And I said to her when we were there, I'm like, well, what about Batman or one of these? And she's like, well, that's for a boy, you know?
Halloween is the one night a year when a girl can dress like a total slut and no other girls can say anything about it. The hardcore girls just wear lingerie and some form of animal hair.
Yes, and the other one still is not sure. She might be a sumo wrestler.
That's awesome.
Or a nerd.
So anyway, as I was saying, Halloween has become more sexy related costumes due to licenses and people wanting to be what's in the movies. And what's in the movies right now is sexy. It's not like it used to be with Friday the 13th and other movies like that. So that's why it's more sexy than not, and women want to be sexy looking, so I think that's part of the thing.
How do you feel about it? Like, do you agree with it, or do you think it should be more scary?
It should go back to the old way of Halloween and be what Halloween is about, to kind of be witches and pumpkins and bums they used to be. Now it's really related. When you look at the costume aisle, it's everything that has to do with anything licensed. So all those people that have the licensing make all the money, and the people who make the general costumes where Halloween used to come from don't anymore. It's just who can afford to pay the highest royalties now. So I don't necessarily agree with it, but that's just what the public wants.
What makes you pick a costume?
Now or like when I was little?
Now.
Now, I don't really dress up that much. If I do, it's just something I saw somewhere and I should do that. And yeah,
So you don't really do anything just because it's funny or stupid?
not really.
Have you noticed like a decline in scary costumes compared to like sexy and provocative costumes?
Absolutely.
That's it. What's your take on it? Like how do you feel about it? Do you think it should be more scary or?
I don't really care either way. I mean, it's just up to whoever is dressing up. If they want to dress up in certain ways, go for it. I mean, it doesn't really matter to me.
Why do you think people do that? Why do you think they're just more sexy than scary anymore?
Attention. I think a lot of like how the world is now is just based around attention and getting more likes on Facebook and.
Halloween first has changed. I don't feel like a lot of people go trick-or-treating as much. I know our whole street used to go out. Now I barely see anyone go out, at least where I'm from. And maybe that's just the generation change, but I think that's one. And then also the costumes and things like that have changed drastically from, being nice and juvenile to now very vulgar and sexy. Alright, I think the biggest reason for that change from, the juvenile, innocent costumes to more sexy costumes, I think has to do with our society changing from, our women are just women to now sexualizing everything we do, right down to what we wear, how we act, how we walk, what we eat, things like that. So.
As consumers, it is our goal to have the newest and best product, in this case, Halloween costumes. But do we truly know what impact it is having on our society? Does letting a 4-year-old wear a miniskirt as she prepares to trick-or-treat set a good example for our future? Does a 20-year-old college student dressing in a skimpy lumberjack costume show children how to be mature? As consumers, you decide.